Alright, as you've guessed by the title, this is gonna be my Premier League prediction for this season. What I'm gonna do today is I have a cap right here, no cap. That's such a bad joke. That's such a bad joke, I'm sorry. But yeah, anyways, I do have a cap right here. In there, I got all the team names, so I'm gonna go through them in a random order, just like Ben Foster did. Alright, so let's get started with the first team that we're gonna be discussing in today's video. And that is going to be Brighton, alright. I mean, every Premier League manager, every Premier League player, they will say that Brighton is extremely difficult to play against. They've got a great manager in Graham Potter, but on paper the team isn't really a star-studded team. They do have a lot of young talents in their squad though, but I'm also not fully convinced yet by their striker position. They did bring in Dennis Unda from Union, but we just gotta wait to see if he will actually perform in the Premier League as well. But to be fair, Brighton didn't really have a striker for the past couple of seasons and they seem to be completely fine. So I think it's not gonna be a problem now as well if they don't really have that goal scoring striker. Although I do think that with like that goal scoring striker they can finish higher than they did in previous seasons. But my prediction is that Brighton is gonna have a good season. They're gonna be comfortable and they're gonna be finishing in 12th. Next up, we've got Aston Villa. You know, Aston Villa is a weird one because they have got a lot of good players, a lot of good Premier League proven players as well. This transfer window they also managed to keep Coutinho, which is huge for them. And I think on paper and like with the players they got, with the squad they got, they do have the ability to finish in 7th place. But last season was very up and down. There was no consistency. What is going to be key is just confidence for this team, because they can finish 7th, but they have to believe that they can finish 7th. And I'm not so sure they're going to do that. They also haven't really proven to have like that belief in themselves in the previous season. So I'm going to predict Aston Villa is going to finish in 13th place. Nottingham Forest, a new one. I mean, they're back in the Premier League and I think they are going to struggle this year. Honestly speaking, they're going to struggle this year. But for any newly promoted side, it's going to be a big challenge to stay up. But I've got to say that I do like the way that Nottingham plays. I like their manager. I like the way they set up. I'm impressed by the signings of Dean Henderson on loan. And especially with the signing of Jesse Lingard. I think that shows a lot because there were probably a lot of other Premier League sides who are maybe more stable as Premier League sides who Lingard could have gone to. But he chose to go to Nottingham. And I think that in itself will give that team a huge boost. So I think Nottingham is going to be a team with a lot of self-belief this year. It's going to be a very, very tough season. But I think they can do it. So I'm going to predict that Nottingham will narrowly avoid relegation and finish in 17th place. Right, next up, Liverpool. Oh yeah, big boy club. It kind of feels like the start of a new era at Liverpool. Sadio Mane has gone now. He's gone to Bayern, and to be fair, they do have pretty much their whole squad. Besides that, only Mane has really gone. Obviously, other players left as well, but like from the main team, only Mane has gone. And they do have a lot of players that can just play in that position that Mane did. But it does also then bring a lot of pressure because how Mane has performed over the last couple of years is incredible. So there is a lot of pressure on the shoulders of Luis Diaz, of Diogo Jota, of Darwin Núñez to perform and to score goals. To score the goals that Sadio Mane did when he was still at the club. Now I have no doubts about Diogo Jota, I have no doubts about Luis Diaz. Darwin Núñez still needs to prove himself, but he needs time obviously. But also Klopp has been that manager that has always been able to improve his players, especially attackers. They always seem to go for like a certain kind of attacker as well, who is just a naturally great finisher. So I think it's going to be a very interesting year where we're going to be seeing a little bit of a different Liverpool this year, but they still have a great squad. So the main question is, can Liverpool do it this year? Can they win the Premier League? And I still think they don't have enough. I think they've gone a little bit backwards, but backwards in a good way to make step forwards this year and next year especially. I think this is a year where like they've got kind of a new attack that needs to get adjusted to it, and then not this season but the season after that I think they can really show their quality and things can come to fruition. But I think this is not the year they're gonna be winning the Premier League. But they are still going to do well, but it's going to be a 2nd place finish for me. Next up in the cap, we've got Brentford. Now, Brentford obviously did great last season, but this is the second season. And we know that a lot of clubs struggle with the second season syndrome. Other clubs in the Premier League will have figured out the way Brentford plays right now. I mean, we all remember Sheffield United as well. They tore up the first year, and then the second season was just hopeless. And I think Brentford are going to go through a similar pattern this year. Eriksen has also left the club, and he showed his quality and he showed how key he was to creating chances for Brentford in the second half of the season. And I do think that without him, they may have finished lower and they may have not survived as comfortably as they did last season. But I do like Brentford's manager and I do like the club. I like the identity of the club. They do have a good and positive atmosphere around the club. So I do think they're going to survive. They will struggle this year, but they're going to survive. But it's going to be a 16th place finish for me. Next, we've got Everton. Where do I even start with Everton? The atmosphere around Everton just seems very toxic. Preseason has gone horrible for Everton as well. They've struggled to make signings. Yes, they did get in Tarkowski, who is a Premier League experienced defender and who will definitely bring experience and quality to the side. It also looks like they're going to be signing up Ruben Vinagre and Dwight McNeil. But those are not really signings that really inspire me and that show me that Everton are going to do better than they did last season. But to be honest, like the main key and the main goal for Everton this season should just be to stabilize the club again and to get a good atmosphere going. I think Frank Lampard kind of did that, but I do have my doubts whether Frank Lampard can really stabilize the club. I think most people are going to expect Everton to be in a relegation battle again and for them to really struggle this season, and I think so too. You know, I worry for the worst, I worry for relegation, but I hope for the best. So I'm gonna predict that they will finish 14th because I believe there are 6 teams who technically on paper should be worse than Everton. Alright, let's go into the head. We go for the next one, and that is Leicester City. Last season I wasn't very impressed with Leicester. They seem to have fallen off a bit and they kept on making the same mistakes over and over again, which has been happening for years and years. And they kept on conceding from corners and set pieces. And they don't really look like they can solve that problem. And I think this season they're going to struggle with that as well. And I think that's also going to stop them from progressing as a club and to really challenge again. Last season they were very unlucky as well with Wesley Fofana's injury. But he's going to make a comeback this year. And I'm hopeful he's going to return to his form he had the previous season. And I mean, Leicester do have a solid squad. They're not going to be in a relegation battle. But I just miss that hunger, I think, from Leicester to go back to where they were. Like, they were a top 4 challenging side, and it doesn't feel like they are, or it doesn't feel like they are striving to be again. And I think that's a shame because, like, they really built something, but I think it's kind of fallen off, and I don't think they're gonna do as well this year either, and it's gonna be a 10th place finish for me. Next, we've got Bournemouth. Bournemouth, I mean, man, I gotta be honest. I think Bournemouth is a definite relegation candidate. I think there's not a team that is more sure of relegation than Bournemouth. I just can't really see them stay up. I don't think they have a squad that is ready for the Premier League. They also don't really have many Premier League experienced players. I do like Scott Parker as a coach, but it's just a hell of a task for him to keep this side up. So Bournemouth are gonna finish dead last, I think. Next up, we've got West Ham. And West Ham has been a very exciting team the last 2 years. As we know, they are massive. But, you know, they've been very solid. And I think the biggest piece of transfer business has been to keep Declan Rice and Jared Bowen at the club. If they do leave before September, that will be a huge loss to this team. But if they can manage to keep them in the squad, I think they're going to have a good season again. They've also strengthened the squad with Najee Aguiar, who I got to be honest about, I know nothing about. But I think they've strengthened the squad. They also signed Gianluca Scamacca. And this is a player I'm very excited for because I do know him from his time in PSV, in the youth teams. And back then I was very excited about him as a talent. I thought he was one of the biggest talents in the youth academy of PSV. It was insane that we got him because he already was kind of known as like a big talent in Italy. But it just didn't really work out for him in the Netherlands at PSV or at PEC Zwolle, where he was also loaned out to. But I do think that this guy has a lot of potential. And he has been tearing up the Serie A. You know what? I think this is one of those signings who, like, he's either going to be a big flop at West Ham or he's going to do bits for them. And I hope for the latter, because I like this guy. I hope he's not going to lose his confidence and he's going to make a mark in the Premier League, because I think this guy can really be one of the top strikers in the world. But yeah, West Ham is a good and solid team. I like their additions that they've made to the squad. They've really kept their squad together as well. They seem solid. They seem without worries of relegation again. So it's going to be a 7th place finish for me. Next up, we've got Spurs. And this is an interesting one. Tottenham looks like the real deal this year. They really do look like the real deal. I have a feeling they're going to be very tough to beat. Conte has had more time with the team now. He's had a preseason. And we all know he's a terrific manager who is very hard to beat. And he knows how to win. And their attack looks insane. With Son, Kane, Kulusevski, and now they added Richarlison to that. They added Perisic to that. I mean, Richie is a player with a lot of potential, with a lot of Premier League experience as well, so that's huge. They also strengthened with Yves Bissouma from Brighton and with Jet Spence as a right wing-back, who I think is going to be very exciting to watch. The only thing I'm not really sure about when it comes to Tottenham is their defense and their goalkeeper. Like, can Hugo Lloris really perform to the levels we know he has done at the past? I'm not sure anymore. Their defense as well. I think Christian Romero is a great defender, but then I'm not sure about the rest. I don't think the rest of the defenders that are at the club are Premier League winning defenders. I mean, you've got the likes of Eric Dyer. They bought in Clement Lenglet, who, I mean, I don't think he's the biggest addition to this squad. I'm not sure if he's going to do that well. They've got Davinson Sanchez. They've got Tanganga, Ben Davies, Rodon. They all don't really seem like players that are gonna be tearing it up, you know. Like they don't seem like, oh yeah, this is a defense that's gonna win the Premier League. So I think they still need to strengthen there. But besides that, that whole Tottenham squad is very exciting, and I do trust in Conte a lot. And I'm gonna make quite a bold prediction here, but also not really. But they're gonna finish in 3rd for me. Okay, next up we've got Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace probably has got one of the most exciting squads. They've got a lot of young talents playing for them, but they've also got a great mix of Premier League experience and young talent. Last season they did terrific. I think losing Conor Gallagher is obviously a big loss to them as well. But I think they'll be more than fine, and I'm gonna perhaps make my boldest prediction here, and I'm gonna say Crystal Palace is gonna finish in 9th this year. Yes, 9th. I think they're gonna do it. I mean, it's a bold prediction, but let's just hope it's gonna be the case, and I'm gonna be looking like a genius at the end of the season. Next up, we've got Newcastle United. Now, Newcastle United went on a great streak last season when Eddie Howe came in. They were pretty much performing like a top 4 side in the last half of the season. I expect them to stabilize more this season, but I don't really expect them to be fighting for top 6 yet. But there is a very positive atmosphere around the club, and they've made some great signings in Sven Botman and in Nick Pope. And I'm sure before the end of the transfer window, we're going to be seeing some more players come in as well. But I like that they seem to have a plan when it comes to buying in players, and they don't really seem to be spending huge amounts of money. I don't think they're promising players or they're giving players a lot of wage as well, because otherwise they may have gotten a Hugo Ekitike, who now went to Paris Saint-Germain, who maybe he just wants to go to Paris Saint-Germain. If Newcastle was desperate, they could have given him like God knows how many millions a year, and he probably would have signed, you know. But you don't really want players to just sign for the money. You want players to believe in the project, and I think that they are making very conscious signings, which is a good thing. So I do have a lot of trust in Newcastle this season. I think they will stabilize as a club, and this is a year where they can like show the project to other players, and they're probably gonna be making steps in order to be challenging for top 6 the year after. But this season, I don't think they're quite there yet, and it's gonna be an 8th place finish for me. Next up, we've got Manchester United. You don't hear this often when it comes to Manchester United, especially over the last couple of years, but I'm very excited for Manchester United. It's just preseason, and the season hasn't really started, but there seems to be a new and healthy energy around this club. I think bringing in Erik ten Hag as a manager has been the biggest piece of transfer business they've done this season. I think he will do really well, and he already seems to be doing really well, and he seems to be getting that respect of players, and players do seem to believe in his plan, as far as you can tell from videos, as far as you can tell from the preseason games, which is obviously key to make this whole thing work and to make Manchester United a great club again, because it's very easy for a top club to create a toxic atmosphere. I'm gonna say Manchester United is gonna finish in 6th place, because I'm not gonna put that expectation on them to be top 4. But I also wouldn't be surprised if they finish third. Next up, we've got Southampton. I worry for them. I worry for them a lot. Every season they seem to have like these decent periods where they get a lot of points, but they also always have these periods, which are usually a little bit longer, where they really struggle to get any points. I just think their attack as well is not Premier League quality. Adam Armstrong is maybe a player who can grow. Last season was obviously his first season in the Premier League. Maybe he can do better this year, but I do think they're gonna struggle to score goals, and that is not good for any team. Like they do obviously got decent players as well in Ward-Prowse, in Livramento. I think Joe Aribo as a signing has been a good signing as well, but I think Southampton are gonna struggle. I think they're really going to struggle, and I'm going to make another bold prediction. I'm going to say that Southampton is going to relegate, and they're going to finish in 18th. Yes, 18th. Next up, Chelsea. I mean, last season for Chelsea was, in my opinion, very underwhelming. I thought they would be able to compete with Liverpool and Man City and to be on the same level as them, but they weren't, and they didn't even really come close, which makes me question how this season is going to go as well. They've got a great team, obviously. They've got a great manager. They've lost a lot of defenders, but they did bring in Kalidou Koulibaly, who I think is going to be tearing up the league straight away. They also brought in Raheem Sterling, which I think is a great signing, because I think he's going to be a player who wants to prove himself. He wants to show that he's one of the best players in the Premier League. He wants to show Man City probably that they should have never gotten rid of him, and that he should have been their star player. I think the competition for like the third or second place has never been this strong before. And for me, Chelsea will just miss out on that second or third spot. They will still qualify for Champions League because they've got a great squad, but it's going to be a 4th place finish. Now, next up, Manchester City, and I mean, I think we all know where Manchester City is going to go in my prediction. They're going to be first, even though they did lose Raheem Sterling, Zinchenko, Gabriel Jesus, Fernandinho. They're still the clear favorites. It does also feel a little bit like a transitional period for Man City, you know, like with a lot of new players coming in as well, with Erling Haaland, Julian Alvarez, Calvin Phillips, potentially Marc Cucurella as well. But yeah, they've got a fantastic squad. They've got world-class players in there. And now with Haaland, they've added probably the best striker in the world. I think it's going to be easier for them this season to win the Premier League. I think they're going to walk away with it. And they're going to be winning with quite a margin. Next up, we've got Fulham. I mean, Fulham was a very exciting team to watch last season in the Championship, and they tore up the league. However, they did have to rely a lot on the goals of Mitrovic, and the main question is, can he finally do it in the Premier League? Like, I do think that this Fulham team is a better team and a stronger team than the Fulham team that was in the Premier League 2 seasons ago. Fulham has always had this like transfer window whenever they're promoted where they've gone crazy. They bought in a lot of players, and then it's just tough to build a team with so many new players. This season they haven't really made that many signings yet, and they seem to taken away from that strategy, which is a good thing, and more to stabilize the club. So it's a very good sign that they're not spending a lot of money on transfers, but I still think they are not going to be good enough to survive, and I think they're going to be finishing in 19th place. Alright, we've only got 3 teams left. First up, we've got Wolves. I mean, Wolves is a steady Premier League team. They do, I think, still miss players, especially on the wing, who can score goals. They've been very reliant on Raúl Jiménez in the past. So I do think that they need to bring in some new wingers. They possibly need to bring in a backup for Raúl Jiménez too. They've also not really added many noteworthy players to the squad. They did bring in Nathan Collins of Burnley, who is a talented defender, but is he enough to make Wolves challenge for a 7th place finish? I don't really think so. Going to be interesting as well to see if Morgan Gibbs-White is finally going to get his chance. I think he's ready for the Premier League, and who knows, he may be playing for Wolves as a starter this season, so he could be a real added quality to this side, but I predict Wolves are going to be finishing in 11th place. First up, we've got Arsenal. Yeah, I mean, Arsenal are looking good. Arsenal are looking very good this season, I think. Everyone seems to be very optimistic, and they've showed real progress. I think bringing in Gabriel Jesus has been a great piece of transfer business as well. I can see him score a lot of goals for Arsenal. I think he fits the system perfectly. And he also brings that experience of winning trophies at Manchester City. You know, like both him and Zinchenko as well, who they also brought in. Like, they've got that experience of a title win in sight. And I think that is just key. Like that mentality that they will bring onto the other players. Like, this is how we need to train in order to win trophies. This is the level we would need to be at in order to beat Man City. Bringing in that knowledge and that quality is huge. But yeah, Arsenal just got a very young and exciting squad. They really could finish top 4 this season, but my prediction is going to be a 5th place finish. Because I think Chelsea and Tottenham are just that bit stronger than Arsenal. And then last up we've got Leeds, who I do think are going to survive relegation. But I am very worried for them. Last season they narrowly just avoided it. They lost their 2 best players in Calvin Phillips and Rafinha, so there's not much reason to be very optimistic. They did bring in a lot of new players, but also players who have no Premier League experience and who've just been playing in new leagues. And you kind of know how that goes. Like, they could either do really well, but usually it never really works out, or they need a season to adjust. But yeah, I do think Brendan Harrison is a very exciting prospect and an exciting player they brought in. As you know, I will predict Leeds to finish in 15th, but they could relegate as well. So that's been it for my prediction. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of my prediction and what your prediction is. And if you're interested in knowing which clubs have made the most beautiful shirt for this season, definitely watch this video.